All right, guys. So, episode 6, I believe we're at now. Today we're going to discuss work slash career. So, talking about work in general, obviously how we ended up where we are now, and then a few other topics along those lines. Obviously, for anyone who doesn't know, me, Simon, and Tom, we all met each other at work of all places, and we became friends after that. So, yeah, interesting topic to obviously discuss. I'm going to kick it off. First question with, when you guys were younger, what sort of work did you see yourselves getting into? Not necessarily a dream job, so to speak, but realistically, what did you think you were going to become when you grew older? I'll start off with you, Tom.
Um, Interesting question. I mean, from I wouldn't even say from the kind of age or like year point of when I was born, but it's kind of an Irish thing as to what your kind of dad does, the son will then go ahead and do as well. Like the dad will kind of bring up the boy into doing his job. So if he was a farmer, he would be a farmer. If he was like a labourer, he would be a labourer. If he was a mechanic, then he would be a mechanic. So my dad was born and raised in Ireland, came over here when he was like 20 odd years old. Did like a little bit of labouring. He's now like he then went on to a hedge fund and did the facilities for them, and now he's happily retired. So I'm guessing I was kind of like weighed up or lined up to be like a labourer, I would assume, or worked in some kind of like facilities management
Mm.
kind of capacity, or worked for like some kind of managed service provider with to do with like building maintenance or whatever the case was. I mean, I was kind of lined up to do that, and then I don't know what really happened. Like, I don't know what made me then move into IT, or why I kind of moved across and didn't actually do like the whole labouring side of it. But when I was younger, the kind of dream job that I wanted to do, there were two dream jobs. One of them you'd be like, you're fucking weird, and the other one is like kind of what a lot of youngsters wanted to do when they were younger. One was I wanted to be a policeman, and just like just any old PC plod really, walking down the street or sorting out crime or hunting down the bad guys. Like you were always like police when you were younger were like the really like they were the good guys. They were cool. They would hunt down criminals and so on. But when you're younger, you didn't know the kind of crimes that they would kind of go on commit. Like you would think like robbery or carjacking, and then when you're older, you're thinking, fucking hell, we've got to deal with like rape and murder and bloods and gore and car crashes and awful crimes committed and all that shit. But that was what I kind of wanted to do when I was younger, and a lot of my mates were kind of along the same line. The other one, which is kind of weird, but like I'm into this kind of thing, but I wanted to be like an archaeologist. I really liked history when I was younger, like Egyptians and Romans and the Greeks and the Mayans and all that jazz, and like dinosaurs and finding fossils and all that jazz. So when I was younger, I would have loved to have been like an archaeologist or like an explorer and found like ancient ruins and all that shit. But then that obviously requires going to uni and being a fucking major nerd, doing more than I am now. So I was like, fuck that noise. But it's still just like that thrill of finding something that's been like secret or hidden away in the past and forgotten about for hundreds or thousands of years. I would have loved to have done that, but obviously I'm not a major fucking nerd or scientist, so yeah,
Well,
couldn't.
you can still do that. You can go in your garden and dig up a bit of old fossilized shit if you want.
Yeah, and then it ends up being like a lump of fox shit, So you know what I mean?
But didn't you say, I think in a previous podcast that you did work experience with your old man, your old man's hedge fund or something, didn't you?
Yeah, there was. It was like an opportunity was there way back to do work. It's like I've done work experience 3 times with my dad's company, the company where he worked at. One was when I was in. Oh, what year do you do work experience? It's like year 9, I
Year
think it is.
10, we did
And
it.
Year 10,
yeah,
that's the one.
it's a summer holiday of year 10 going to year 11. That's no, start
Yeah.
of year 11 actually.
Yeah,
For me,
so
it
that
was.
was so that was. So my dad worked as like the senior facilities engineer. So whenever there was anything that happened, he would get a phone call, go and see this person, fix this, sort out the aircon, or fix this light bulb or whatever, or yada yada yada. So I kind of went on him with his little jobs when he was going around the building, and like speaking to some of the hedge fund brokers. You know, it's kind of known how wankerish they actually are. Then in I think it was when I was doing my A levels, I did another work experience, and I did it with the IT team where the company where my dad worked, and I was there for like 2 weeks, and then I did like a summer placement there with the IT bunch as well, and that was like for a few months too.
Interesting.
Yeah.
McSweeney, what about you, mate?
Well, it's actually the funny thing is when I was around about, I say, under 10 or going into secondary school, probably just before secondary school. It's the same as Tom. I wanted to be a policeman as well. And I think a lot of that was actually to do with watching The Bill.
Yeah.
And it was like, I could see myself doing that one day, like nicking people and, beating all the crime and becoming like the hero and all this other stuff. And fast forwards, how many years? It would have been 2017. I actually applied to join the police in 2017. Yeah, I was my mum was saying about this trainee detective thing that the Met were introducing. And obviously, that meant that a lot of people that were going in and cutting their teeth from the bottom, becoming PC plodders, Tom put it earlier, entry-level stuff. A lot of people would just kind of bypass that and go into like a trainee detective scheme. And I got so far in that, actually. I got to the point where we were going to do they invite you for like an assessment day where you've got to turn up, and then they do like role playing with actors and yeah, you basically have to be in situations, I think, where you have to calm someone down, or you've got different scenarios where you're being provoked or certain situations, and they also have like another written exam or something alongside that. And with the Met, I don't know if you guys know, but the process is actually really long in terms of applying for it. Like it takes you around about a year to get into it. So I applied around about sort of July 2017. Around about the time I actually met Maurice, which is funny enough. That sort of crossroads in my life. But yeah, it was there, and then I didn't get invited to the assessment until about January or February the following year. And I just had second thoughts about it. I was reading articles on the BBC about the whole, police being under-resourced, underfunded, and apparently like there's only only 2 detectives per London borough.
Oh wow, okay.
Really?
Yeah, so you can imagine if like someone's on holiday, someone calls in sick or whatever. This is what people said, that they were in it for about 25 years of being a detective, and they had to leave because they were so stressed out from all the work and the amount of work, the volume of work. So yeah, I've always been fascinated by crime documentaries, as we said in the TV episode and all that sort of stuff. And I was in America at the time, and I thought, nah, it just doesn't feel right. You see this bloke, he broke out of prison twice, and I'm thinking, I'm gonna have to deal with people like this, chase these people down, trying to find them. And when you do find them, you're gonna have to, put them under scrutiny to the point where, you're interviewing some people that are like seasoned criminals. And I just thought, nah, it's not for me. But it's funny how that was almost like a full circle moment when I was younger, from to about 15 years later or whatever, 20 years later. And yeah, other than that, in my sort of early teens, like you said earlier, year 10, year 11, I thought about maybe becoming a solicitor. So I did a placement in, I think it's Carshalton or Wallington, which was like a local solicitors for a week or so. So I shadowed some people at the firm. It was like I think they did like property law and they did other stuff as well. But the guy that ran the place was one that would like go to magistrates' courts and that. And obviously I would just sit there kind of observing cases. I went to Crown Court as well, Kingston Crown Court, to observe some cases there. But it was something that didn't really, I don't know, it never really grabbed me. I think IT was something I could always relate to. And again, like my favourite subjects were always like IT, geography, English, Spanish, all these types of subjects, but like stuff like law was I never really came across it that much at school. So yeah, it was in terms of like careers. Yeah, becoming a journalist was also on my mind, but I think again, my sort of choice at university didn't really lead me down that path. It was geography, and obviously came out of university with a degree in geography. And yeah, IT was kind of like a natural next step. But yeah, what about you, Midge? What's your
Well,
what was your ideal job if you had one, or career growing up?
yeah, well, growing up, I was always like the technical one in the house. When it comes to, you know, anything electrical, anything, I'll give you a great example: setting up VCRs, setting up TVs, you know, programming them. You know, I was the one in the family who did that. I remember, I feel I mentioned this to you guys at another time, where I'd go to people's houses and fix their TV, fix their stuff, you know, set up their stuff basically. Because you know, a lot of families, they didn't know English properly, or my mum knew someone and they're like, oh, she needs help, but they need help. Can you go and help them and sort them out? So that was always something that I'd do. And just in general, did stuff with DIY. If someone needed a, you know, shelf put up or whatever, you know, I had a drill, or you know, I'd go to people's houses basically to help them out, other Bengali families and stuff. So I was always into that sort of stuff growing up as a kid. Like even I remember like experimenting. A funny story, like we had one of those bookcases, you know, the ones that had lights hidden underneath, which obviously showcases, I think is what you call them. And I remember taking one of the clickers out of it, where you press the button and the light goes on and off. I got like I think we had an old Hoover which we threw out. I snipped the cables off, you know, connected that plug to one end, put the clicker in between, and then got a box standard, I think an old light bulb or something, plugged it in, and I made a makeshift a light bulb for our cellar in our house, and put the clicker outside, and like, you know, when going to cellar, bonk, you know, little basic shit like that. I used to just mess around and piss about with it. So naturally, I thought I was going to be like some sort of electrician, or you know, something in that field. And obviously, in terms of IT, like I was always, again, because I had that technical background, you know, I was always interested in PCs, computers, stuff like that, opening stuff up. You know, hardware was always, even to this day, hardware I'd say is my favorite category or favorite area to deal with. You know, someone's broken their laptop, I want to open it up and I want to figure out what's wrong with it. It's that sort of thing. So yeah. I'd say something along those lines, something technical, but obviously I still think IT would have been something I might have obviously ended up in anyway, and it turns out that I did. So, yeah, no, it was fine. It sort of worked out the way it's supposed to. Obviously, I didn't go uni and all that stuff, like we mentioned in the education podcast, but yeah, again, things worked out fine in the end. Yeah, I mean, I will go on to obviously what led us into IT, and you know, I'll talk about a couple of my jobs as well. But I'll ask Tom first, actually, in terms of first proper job and experiences within that, and obviously where you've ended up now. You know, just give us a little bit of a summary, sort of, you know, what. And also, I want to ask you guys if you can add to that question. Why you might have possibly left one place and went to another, you know, some reasoning behind that, just to sort of understand your mindset as to, you know, why you have moved from one job to another, and what led you to it, and yeah, the pros and the cons along the way. So yeah, Tom, you first, please.
Good question. What led me?
So start off with your first job, if you want. Do you want me to go first to make it a little bit easier?
Yeah, mate. Yeah, you just kind of put me on the spot
Yeah,
there.
no.
I know it's like a Sunday evening.
Brain's frazzled.
I didn't want to talk for too long. That's why I thought I'll pass on.
No,
It's
mate,
fine.
all yours. Crack on, dude.
So basically, obviously, my first job was at a law firm. I'm not counting my apprenticeships stuff that I did, because
Oh,
that was
really?
obviously work placements and stuff. I'm going to talk about my first permanent role now. However, at Denton's, I started off. It was called S&R Denton at the time. I started off as an apprentice. So I came in as an apprentice, and I was actually put with the applications team. So within the applications team, I had a manager who was really, really nice. And I remember actually when she left, I messaged her and I sent her a nice message saying thank you for obviously helping me fit in so well. So I think I was with applications for about a couple of weeks, but I wasn't really doing application work. I was doing still, sort of like technical service desk. My official job role was technical support specialist. So then actually within applications, I work with a guy who I got to give a shout out to because he's probably our number one fan of the podcast, Mr. Carl Murphy. He does listen every week. He is subscribed. So yeah, got to give a nice shout out to him. He was really nice to me as well, by the way, when I started. No, he even last week because I stopped spamming people with all the links, and he naturally messaged me saying, "Oh, he's got his notification on his phone that episode 5 has been uploaded." So yeah. And also another guy who has listened to a podcast, but I don't know if he still does anymore, Bruno. Bruno, who was an Italian weightlifter back in his time, and then he went into IT. So yeah, those two guys within that team were really, really nice to me when I joined. So then there was a new role that got created, like a technical support specialist team leader. And my manager, her name was Victoria. And again, I give her a lot of credit for how I ended up at that place and where it led to, because she just let me crack on with my job. I was pretty comfortable initially because I was young. I was an apprentice and obviously no real expectations. So yeah. I think during the apprenticeship, after the first 3 months, because I've done really well, the city gateway wage for me was first 3 months, £2 something an hour, third month to ninth month, like £6 something an hour, and the ninth month to the 12th month was supposed to be like £8 or £9 an hour. So it gradually went up because I did really well in the first 3 months. They put my wage up to the higher one, like the £9 whatever, from the third month onwards. So I really appreciate that from them. But within, I think it was after like 10 months maybe, the role went live for a permanent member of staff, literally the same role. I still had to go and interview for it. I literally sat in a meeting room with my manager who was interviewing me for it, who obviously was my team leader, I should say, and the HR. And I'm basically sitting there more or less saying, yeah, I've already been doing the job for fucking 10 months, just bloody give me the role, So then I got made permanent. And then, yeah, I had a lot of fun at Denton's, obviously met a lot of good people there, had a good laugh. It was me on technical support specialist, and there was the help desk. So we were all more or less one team. But I was never on the phones. Basically, I was the one running around, building PCs, going and seeing people at their desks or meeting room support. I was the one always on my feet. And if I'm busy or if I'm not around, one of those guys will naturally just go and do what I'd normally do, apart from the building PCs and stuff in the background. So yeah, I had a lot of fun at Denton's. I was there for 5 full years. And yeah, one of the reasons for leaving Denton's actually, I had a really good manager at the time. My original team leader, Victoria, she actually went off on maternity leave, had a couple of kids. So we had another manager come in who was really, really nice, team leader, I should say. Then another manager on top of him who was amazing. And yeah, I had a really good time. But then we had a Polish office opening for the help desk to get outsourced. So a lot of people obviously left or got made redundant in the whole firm, within IT, I should say. And then my manager and team leader, both who were lovely, as I mentioned, both got made redundant, which was a huge kick in the teeth. And then this other scumbag sort of took over. It was a woman actually, and she just just became a toxic workplace more or less. So I hanged around for, and I think it was another 9 months or so before I just sort of said enough is enough. And then I obviously got the role or went for an interview at SH, where obviously I met you both. And once I did end up at SH, again, it started off really well. Unlike Denton's at SH, where I had a lot more people my age or around my age, which was a lot nicer. And the job was a little bit more challenging. Denton's was a piece of piss, more or less. But then, obviously, Stevenson Howell was a little bit more tougher, a bit more difficult, calls and stuff. So, but again, I had a lot of fun at Stevenson Howell as well. Met a lot of people, which out of all the places I worked, I think I made more friends at Stevenson Howell than any other place, actually. So, and you both included, obviously, in that as well. Then after that, went on to, I think it was a private equity company, actually. I took a bit of time out for 6 months. And and then it came back and moved to a private equity company. That was during COVID. So again, they were sort of the people were like a bit cliquey is the right word to use. They've been there for 10, 15 odd years. I was like a newbie, one or two other newbies. So I sort of stuck with them a little bit. Again, it was remote working, so yeah, no sort of face to face, and there was a bit of issue there, micromanaging and all that shit. And I didn't really like my manager there. He was a bit of a twat, basically, a bit of a sado. So after I left there, obviously moved back to Ukraine. Was there for about 6 months. Came back to the UK. Did like a short placement somewhere for 2 months just to get a bit of money into my pocket. It was supposed to be 3 months, but I left after 2 months because it was shit. And then went on to Braemar, obviously, with Tom again. So my manager, my old manager Chris, he interviewed me while I was interviewing for the other role, the 3-month role, but he never actually got to manage me because I think he was off of long-term sick at the time. So then he poached me for Braemar. So I went to Braemar. I obviously gave Tom a shout and said I knew he was looking to leave SH. So got Tom in as well, and we had a good time there, regardless of how shit the systems were. It was a shit show, as the phrase we use quite a lot. But we did have a good laugh, good users. A lot of them were nice. We did a lot to obviously improve the IT in that place as well. And then, at the end of that, I decided to go back to Ukraine, obviously. So left that, sort of gave my notice in, what was it, like 8 months in advance, more or less close to a year, because I knew I was going to leave. So that was always the plan. And then, went back to Ukraine, came back last summer. Went back into law for the first time in ages. So back at work now. It's interesting, with when it comes to IT, there's loads of fields in IT which you can go into, like obviously start at the bottom at help desk, progress to second line, then third line and stuff like that. And again, I'll let you guys elaborate on it more, especially you, McSweeney, because I know you've gone into a third line role, and Tom, even you did a stint as a team leader for a little while as well. But for me, it's always been second line all the way along from Denton's until today, more or less, because I don't know, I guess I'm just comfortable at it. And I like speaking to users. I like dealing with users face to face. I like that customer approach rather than sitting behind a desk all day. I reckon is the real reason. But I've never really chased the money when it comes to work in Korea. As long as I've got enough to pay the rent and be comfortable, I think that's always been the key for me. So I know I went on for a little bit there, but Tom, you try to answer that in your own way if you can.
Yeah, I mean, I can probably take it from there. So I've been much like you, as we obviously mentioned, in the whole work and the education podcast that we did. I did City Gateway like you. I probably did it about a year or two after you did. We didn't do an hourly rate, as far as I know. I think it's like a proper annual salary. Like my annual salary, I'll happily say, it was like 17 grand. And that was as like a service desk analyst, and that was like answering phones, emails, walk-ups, whatever.
But on that,
And
Tom, did City Gateway actually pay you, or was it the company paying you?
it was a company.
That's why. So when I was at Denton's for my apprenticeship, City Gateway were actually paying me. My pay slips were from City Gateway. They were not
Really?
from the company. Yeah, City Gateway
That's
paid me.
weird because they're more like a charity or like a foundation, so it's weird that they would pay it.
Yeah. So what happens, I think, is that you got to think to yourself, how on earth are City Gateway making their money? So I think City Gateway got paid by the Dentons, and then they kept a little bit, and then they obviously gave me my wage. I think that's how it worked.
Okay, interesting. I didn't even think of that, to be honest. I didn't even think about that. So yeah, I was there for about, how long was I there for? About 2.5, 3 years. Met my missus there. I mean, I'm probably just going to elaborate on everything that I spoke about in the education podcast, to be honest. Met my missus there. I then had to leave because there was a managed separation going on. Basically, they were just shutting up shop, the office in London, and moving it elsewhere. So I was part of the first wave of people to leave. Left there, then got recruited by a recruiter. I would say. Got sold this job in a law firm called King. It was Madison, which is where, funny enough, I met. I'd say I met Simon there, but Simon didn't even.
Where you didn't meet me.
Yeah, you was
met you via Cooksie, basically.
It's weird because he when I smoked back then, when you used to go downstairs to go and have a fag, you would take like the goods lift. It was almost like a goods lift. It wasn't even like a proper lift.
Yeah.
Outside the building, it would take you down to like the actual car park instead. That's under the building and next to like the fucking rubbish site. And then you just literally waltzed up there one day because you were still known around the office, even though you had fucking left, and then literally just came up and then just chilled out in the office, right?
Yeah, that was right towards them. But that would have been, I'll tell you when that would have been, Christmas 2016, that would have been.
That's the one,
yeah.
yeah.
I left in January 2016. I'm guessing you would have joined about maybe September 2016.
Yeah, I was only there for like 3 months.
And I met you, the first time I met you was when we played Liverpool in that Friday night game where Henderson scored that screamer. We didn't see the game, but it was basically like you joined and it was in Core, wasn't it? In Bank.
That was in Core, yeah, in Bank, yeah.
And that's when I met Mags as well for the first time. I didn't see her for probably about a year or two after that.
Yeah.
So were you guys at that game?
No, it was actual day. It was the night of, and I think that's how I said, "Oh, Chelsea are losing or whatever."
Yeah,
Simon might have said it. "Oh, I'm a Chelsea fan too." It's like, "Oh, mate, you're a Chelsea fan, football friend."
All that business, and I mean, that bar was like a mainstay for a lot of Friday nights. And
oh my god, I still walk by it every single evening on the way home from work from Liverpool Street to Waterloo, and the Sugarloaf and the Golden Fleece as well, mate. Yeah. It's like literally 1,000, 2,000 people per bar. It's like fucking nuts.
Yeah.
But so I was there for like only a few months because the company then decided to go bust. Moved to where did I then go? Fuck, was
it Mayor Brown?
I went to Mayor Brown. Yeah, I went to Mayor Brown I was there for about. I think I was there for 2 years. That was another service desk role. And it's going to sound sexist, and I do apologise, but that was the first company I worked in where IT was a central hub for women. The previous 2 companies were like blokes. Like the blokes dominated it. But I had my team leader was a female. My regional manager was a female. My global manager was a female. Quite a few of the application support people were all females. I was like, fucking hell, it's not like a bloke-dominated industry. I thought it was really odd. And I know it sounds sexist, but I thought it was really, really weird. It was Mayor Brown was mainly like a US company, so you had like calls from the US the majority of the time. It was a decent company, but one of the guys that I work with, shout out to Matt Allen. He worked at KWM when I worked there as desktop support, and he moved on to Stevenson Harvard, which was where I met all of you boys from. And he mentioned to me that there was a desktop role going there, and to go from service desk support to desktop support, so first line to second line, is a pretty big jump, because it shows that you're worthy of your skill set in IT and you know what you're talking about, so you can actually put it to practice like a little bit more.
Matt brought you both in, didn't he?
Yeah, he made a lot of money off us, and fucking Emily as well, didn't he? Didn't he get money off Emily too?
Potentially, because that was just before I joined, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And I know Maurice went through the usual channels. He didn't go through Matt because Maurice at the same company as me.
Yeah. Yeah, I think, I remember when I met Maurice, like...
In the bank, wasn't it?
Yeah, that was your leaving do, wasn't it?
It was in a banker, and it would have been, I'm guessing, around about, again, 2017 time or 2018, I reckon, yeah.
Yeah. Because it was weird, because he was he was talking about moving from service desk into like project management or something, or being like a project analyst. And I
Yeah.
was trying to convince him that night to take the plunge and take the role, and you'll be good, mate. You'll be sweet as. I don't even know the bloke. I don't even know him, and now I've known him for like what, fucking 7 odd years. And then I walked up into SH on my first day, and who was there, man in the fucking phones? Maurice. I was like, what? And then he took like a second look at me, and he was like, "What the fuck are you doing here?" And I was like, "What the fuck are you
I love
fucking
that.
doing here?"
So
And
good.
it's like, "Yeah, well done, mate. No one takes my fucking advice, and you've literally proved me right. No one takes my fucking advice." But anyway, SH is probably one of the best companies I worked at. I mean, we worked there. Me, Mudge, Simon, Matt worked there for a bit. The people that we became mates with and the people that we supported were like priceless. I mean, it was such a brilliant company to work at. Users were wankers. Some of the issues that we had to deal with were shit. All the projects that we had to kind of work with were shit. Some of the applications that we used to support were shit. But the the entertainment that we had there was fucking mustard. And we worked there during COVID. We worked there. Well, me and Simon did. You didn't much, but because you obviously left a little bit prior to that. So like the support that we had to give out there, and like the way that times had changed, and so on and so forth, and obviously Simon then moved to another team or changed role. I didn't have to jump ship because I just couldn't take it anymore. Well, shit happened, and I was like, fuck this noise. Moved to Braemar, shipbroking company with Mudge. He basically, I mean, you hadn't spoken to me, Mudge, for like about a year and a half, 2 years.
I think when the war kicked off, obviously I needed a bit of help with this and that, and you came forward and helped offer to help with printing stuff out for me. Remember?
Yeah.
I think I put it on Facebook, and then obviously you were on the late shift, so you couldn't help me out at that time, but you actually got in touch and said, yeah, we can sort it out. And then Maurice was on the early shift that day. So I think it was the first time in a while. Obviously we had our group chats and stuff, and we had Prague and stuff, but that was the first time that I actually went back into SH, and then yeah, Maurice helped me print a lot of shit out. But I think obviously after that whole stuff, I sort of stayed in touch a little bit more with you guys because I was back in London, obviously. And then I heard obviously that you were looking to leave SH, and I was looking for a job at that same time myself anyway.
Yeah.
And then obviously Chris poached me for Braemar, and then I was like, he was mentioning, oh, there's a few roles here, and I was like, oh yeah, I've always enjoyed working with people who I know, and it was a little bit more comfortable as well. So I was like, yeah, why don't I get you in, because you want to leave, and then it'll be good as well. So yeah, and that all worked out in the end, and yeah.
Yeah, it did. Yeah, that's that. And yeah, we went to Braemar, small company, smallish company, absolute shit show when we actually joined. And yeah, well, we helped to change the attitude towards IT for the better. Obviously, not for the worse, but it got to a stage where yeah, you obviously left for your reasons, and I left because primarily I had 2 twin girls coming along, and it was a new stage in my life, and there was a company who I interviewed for who was offering a little bit more money, and as there was a big change going on in my life where my house was growing, I thought, fuck it, I'll take the plunge and do this new role as well. Still there, haven't moved on. Very much the same as you. I think people have worked there for long enough at Marix. I joined Marix, and people trust IT enough, and like I enjoy working there. Like, it's decent people. Brokers make stupid amounts of money when they make deals or whatever, but they're still decent people. But they've worked. People within the service desk and desktop team have worked with each other for long enough that they're matey enough with each other. And I'm kind of left to my own devices a little bit, which I don't mind. I mean, people still talk to me. It's not like they don't talk to me or like acknowledge me at all, but people are like that in this company, and I'm totally fine with it as long as you pay me. I don't give a shit. But yeah, that was probably one of the biggest plunges I've made, moving from one job to another. Apart from that, probably moving from Mayor Brown to SH, because that was an actual change of role for me proper. and that was a big step in the right direction. That was a big monetary difference as well, earning a lot more money, and that was like a major thing for me as well. So yeah, I mean, yeah, I've been around the houses, and yeah, love IT. It's all good.
McSweeney.
Been around the block a few times.
Yeah.
Like me. Yeah, so I started at SJ Bowen, which became Kingwood Mallesons, because SJ Bowen merged with Kingwood Mallesons. Would have been, I think, October 2013 or something, about a year after I joined. So I managed to get the placement, the internship prior to that through Just IT in Liverpool Street. So that was like part of the IT training course. It was like a crash course, like during the summer, early autumn, where you got your CompTIA A+ certification under your belt, and then that obviously then meant you could get a placement. The recruiters were like big on like getting me into a law firm, so I said, well, why not, sort of thing. Me and another guy who I actually haven't kept in contact with, he was a good lad, Mahmood. His name was Mahmood, but he did it as well at the same time as me. So we rocked up on the first day, and Mudge, I think you met Pete down the bank at one time, Pete Daniels.
Yeah, I think I do remember.
Brummy Blake, yeah. So he was
yeah.
like, he was like our mentor. He was on the service desk. He'd been in IT for X number of years. He worked at SJ Bowen for like, I think about 6 years at that time. So he was there. He was straight away, he was like a funny guy, like really cheerful, like good with people person. So fast forward a month after being there, I started to look around. I was looking at like places like Savills, who were not Jimmy, by the way. Someone drops that one in. Savills, I think they're a property company.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah,
they are. Yeah,
and basically, it was at that point where, because I'd been there a month, I was starting to look around other opportunities that I hadn't really asked them, oh, do you want to keep me on permanently? So as soon as I said, oh, I'm looking at like other places, they said, oh, just bear with us a minute. And then about an hour later, my manager came back to me and said, oh, do you fancy going for the role on the service desk? And I was like, absolutely, yeah. I was enjoying it there. People were really good. I had a good sort of support network around me in both like first and second line teams and the wider team. So and to make things even better, the director was a Chelsea fan.
Was this Savills you're on about?
Not Savills, no. It was SJ Bowen. But Savills they had a job going, and I was going to apply for it. But then my manager said, "No, hold off that. Like we're going to offer you an interview." So I went for the interview. I was in competition with someone else that was a contractor, and I managed to get the job. I thought he had a bit of a head start on me as well, which was interesting. But I think they probably saw a younger person that they thought could probably be in the role a bit longer. Whereas I think, obviously, being a contractor, he'd been at different companies. I don't know, like sometimes, employers, if you've been at the company for 6 months or 12 months, that's the nature of contracting, isn't it, really? But because I was like fresh out of uni, fresh out of doing the training course, I think they probably felt that I was a bit better suited to kind of cut my teeth there. So that went well, and that lasted for 3 and a bit years. Then I left around about January 2016, went to Howard Kennedy's, not to be confused with Kennedy's. And yeah, that was in a more first stroke second line role. But they had like AV Sport as well. So it was like basically a bit of everything, really. It was like a jack of all trades job. But I actually learned a lot there. One of the reasons why I did leave, actually, was because the second line role at SJ Bowen or Kingwood Mallesons was, we've talked about like on call, Danny is doing on call.
Yeah.
I wasn't mad keen on that. So I even told my manager at the time, and she was like, nah, it's fair enough. It's not fair on. So going to Howard Kennedy's, one of the upsides was that I didn't have to do that, but I could then upskill in terms of doing more face-to-face stuff with people, second line, more kind of advanced stuff, because on the service desk, I was mainly answering the phones, but I did do a secondment in second line for about a month. So yeah, that then obviously lasted another 3 and a bit years, and then I came to Matt said to me, similar to you, Tom, would you fancy moving across to Stevenson Harwood? And I was like, absolutely. I think my ship had sailed at Howard Kennedy. I've become a team leader there as well, and that was a bit stressful. Obviously, looking after people, not just doing my role in a technical, from a technical standpoint, but also like managing people. And it was something that had its ups and downs, if you say that. So I came to Stevenson Harwood, and being a lot bigger company than Howard Kennedy, it felt like I was a bit more at home. I quite liked a bigger company, and straight away it was like I had a bit of a chance to breathe, do second line work. And I think you guys will agree with me. When you're doing second line as opposed to first line, you get more time. You get more time to fix stuff and investigate stuff.
Yeah, definitely.
And that's one of the pluses. And also, I rocked up, and it was like I'd heard you guys have been involved in projects. Mudju in the Windows 10 stuff.
Yeah.
Tom, you've been over in Dubai, and I thought that's pretty cool. International travel. All the plus points. Obviously, more money. Yeah, that's always going to help, isn't it? But yeah, it was just a different environment, and I think I felt straight away there was that better support network at SH.
Yeah, I think a huge plus, as I mentioned about SH before, was the people that we had a good little group there. We made loads of friends and stuff as well, and that helped. So you didn't mind waking up and going into work because we were gonna you were gonna have a laugh with the guys around you and stuff. You knew you were gonna get that support and help. And yeah, in general, even if it is shit or you have shit stuff going on, you always got each other around you, so it helps.
Yeah, I think one of the things it's all about timing in life, I think. And if I'd have still been at Howard Kennedy's in say 2020 when the lockdown kicked off and lockdown 2.0 and the rest of it, I think it would have been really difficult for me. And me coming to a company where it felt more like there's just more scope for opportunities and just people like looking out for each other. I mean, Tom and I used to do like a rota thing where we come in just us two.
Yeah.
And that was really good. That was like a bit of camaraderie. Just we'd be cracking all the stuff with Tom, Windows 10 stuff, building laptops, profiling laptops. That was really good.
It was weird because we were doing like Windows 7 or Windows 7 to Windows 10 upgrades, and we would like doing like the upgrades for like the PAs and the EAs and the trainees and all sorts. So we would get like their passwords, and we would get like their home address, and then we'd just literally send out their shit to them. It was so fucking weird, but like it kept us busy, or else we would literally be sending out like a headset here or like a charger here or whatever the case is, and then kind of to see whose house looks like what. It was good. It was a hard time to kind of work during COVID because you had to keep yourself busy, but it was good that we had other people to work with, and then eventually like it got busy enough where they were like, right, everyone from the desktop team go into the office, and there would be like 10 people in the whole office, and 8 of them would be IT people. It was nuts.
In the 2 rooms, wasn't it? Because we had to be separate.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, just to make sure that if someone got COVID, then that room would be affected only.
Yeah, another thing as well, another plus from 2020 was like it just made me realise like what I want to do a bit long term, get into cybersecurity, information security, and I started to shadow what Darren and people in that team, and it really helped because it was like, okay, there is like a pathway to something else, but I think sometimes you need that also a bit of calm, a bit of time and reflection to do that.
Yeah. So what made you then want to move to like a completely different role, Si?
So I think one of the things was, you sort of been there and done it, and you, particularly with the physical stuff, been under desks and all that type of thing we had to do, wasn't it? Unplugging stuff. It was like, it just comes a bit old hat, and you think, I want to do something a bit more advanced. I want to really sort of challenge myself, and I felt that was there were still challenges in the team. Of course there were, and you still like learn a lot. But I think it was like, okay, so what do I do? Do I go into project management? Do I go into become a trainer? Do I go into I guess like business analytics or something like that, or is it cybersecurity? And I think one of the things that the guy said at Just IT were like, what you want to get into is security, because it's going to be like the future's now sort of thing. And that was back in 2012. Like, it's going to be like no shortage of roles in that particular field, and obviously well paid as well. So it was a win for me. It was like, just have to try and say it to myself and just speak to people and shadow people.
No, fair enough.
Okay, I want to go over to, I did have 2 more questions, which I'll quickly get through. Dream job, if you could pick one right now, if you had to do a career change, what would your dream job be? I'll kick off by going first. Now, one thing I've always loved doing growing up is traveling and going places, as you both know. So anything regarding travel, I would love to do. I mean, I love watching on YouTube these travel vloggers and stuff like that. Maybe something along those lines I would have liked to do myself, or a job that just allows me to travel a lot, basically. If I had to choose something along the lines of a dream job, I'd say, something that allows me to go to all these different countries. I love exploring different cultures, different ways of living, even just seeing different architectures in different countries. It has always fascinated me. Of course, people say, oh yeah, it's never too late to change and do this, but I've got a wife and 2 kids to fucking worry about. So yeah, it's not easy to just up and change or do something. It's something I would have loved to go into when I was single or when I was younger, and take it from there. And no one ever knew all this YouTube bullshit was going to become really popular, and you can make a career out of it. Back then, it was just sort of not really looked upon in that way. So yeah, I'd say that would be my sort of dream job, something linked to travel. Cool. What about you, Tom?
Astronaut.
Wow.
I mean, to be one of like the few very thousands of the hundreds or thousands of people to be able to go up into space and like see the planet Earth from like so far away, or go to the moon or the International Space Station. Yeah, moon. Yeah, I did say moon. That is the actual name for it. That is how you pronounce it, mate. Moon. Or be able to like go to Mars or go to other galaxies or solar systems or whatever. It would like to kind of like when they do the whole process to pick like the next astronauts to go into space. Like the vigorous training that you have to do both physically and psychologically and so on, and then be trusted to be able to go into space and then represent your country or do like the vitally important experiments or work that needs to be done. Maybe even have a chance of seeing aliens up there, or getting a bit of a lowdown as to whether they're real or not.
There was one spot the other day, wasn't there? Someone was messing around.
Really?
I saw an article the other day. It was some bloke on I think people have been like kind of delayed in coming back, and they sent out another set of people, and it was some guy messing around with like an alien mask.
Oh my god!
Yeah. Maybe it's Tunde. I don't know.
Tom, I got a question. Who are you representing? Ireland or England?
I'll be the first Irishman to go into space. It's on my passport. It's Irish passport.
True. Yeah.
It's on my passport. What about you, Si?
You know what? I had a few on my list, but like one of them actually that does interest me is a sports psychologist.
Okay.
Just I've heard about sports psychologists. It was like David James when he was making all the blunders under the sun in the goal, or like a goalkeeper, or I don't know, rugby player, tennis player, an athlete that trains for the Olympics, swimmer. I think there's even like Adam Peaty, the swimmer, was talking about like how he's got a sports psychologist and how there's certain thought patterns and processes that he goes through to mentally prepare himself for obviously like world championships, Olympics, etc. But yeah, it's something that I like kind of getting into people's minds. I do obviously like to think I'm a people person. Done like the jobs where you're interacting with people with customer service and stuff. So I think it's something that is doable. I think it would obviously involve going to university again, and I couldn't just walk into it and say, "Oh, there you go," rock up and get some sort of internship somewhere, and there you go. I think you'd have to qualify in that field, wouldn't you? From what I gather. But yeah, something, or even something like in sports in general, even it's like sports administration, because you know, big on sports like you guys, really.
I'd agree with that. I mean, it's something you definitely need a degree or something under your belt to say, look, I am qualified in this. You can't just jump like IT. You can easily just jump into it with a little bit of experience and crack on. Like, I haven't got a degree, Tom hasn't got a degree, but we just cracked on and we're still here. We are. So interesting one. But yeah, I think I didn't really elaborate on why I left certain places before, but yeah, I think Tom, you did, and you did as well, Si. But yeah, money was definitely a big point in that. Like, if I had stayed at Denton's, because I started off at a really low wage. Bear in mind, I got made permanent when I was like 20, so obviously I was on like mid-20s when I was there. And if I had stayed on, I probably would be just about breaking 30 right now, or you know, I doubt I would have got a huge boost. But when I went over to SH, I got a very nice boost in my wage, which is another reason why I was happy to leave. And then going off from that, going to CVC, another boost, and then going off to Braemar, I didn't get much of a boost, but every time I do change job, I try to get, you know, a little bit more, you know. And even right now, I'm at a point where, you know, I'm happy with what I'm on. I'm happy with, again, got enough to pay the rent, do everything, you know, make sure, you know, break even and more. But yeah, if I hadn't moved on from all those workplaces, I would have still have less money. And also another huge positive of moving jobs, which I know some people say, oh, you shouldn't move jobs too often, or you shouldn't have small stints in your CV. It's utter bullshit. Every place I've moved to, with the exception of CVC, where obviously it was within COVID because we were in the office a lot of the time, you know, I've met new people, I've made new friends, you know, everywhere I've gone on to work, which is, again, a huge plus. So I think that definitely comes into it. Finances and meeting new people is definitely a huge plus of moving from job to job. Okay, cool. So we've got 6 minutes left, I should say. I did put one more in there. If you could ever do a career change right now, where would you end up in? I know, Simon, you referred to realistic career change. I know, Simon, you referred to sports psychologist. Tom, you did mention astronaut, but sadly, to break your bubble, I can't say that that's going to be a realistic one that you can achieve. So if you could choose a realistic one, what would you say?
Can you not try to burst my balloon, please?
You know, mate. Mate. I'm just speaking truth.
You're betting. What can I do?
Or do you see yourself in IT for the rest of your life? Is what I'm trying to say. In other words.
Yeah, probably. I mean, are you talking about something that I would like to do now, or something that like I had the skill set to actually kind of move into it?
A bit of both, basically. Something realistic that you could probably go into. I'll kick it off if it helps. Like,
God, I'm not doing very, very well in this.
No. We've got 5 minutes. I'll keep it short and sweet. But you might remember when we were at Braemar, obviously, one of the managers, Phil, said, "I'll be really good as like a project, dealing with just projects, or, you know, like a project manager. When it comes to planning stuff and doing stuff, I feel I excel a little bit more at that stuff, as well as obviously mixing it with IT stuff. So if I could pick, like, again, a travel vlogger, it's not realistic job change for me, because like I said, I've got wife and kids to worry about, so I can't just up and go and piss about. Whereas being like a project, you know, doing strictly not IT, but strictly projects, or, you know, something where I'm planning and organizing and doing something along those lines, I think I could obviously realistically still do. But it's one of those things I wouldn't apply to go into something along those lines unless it's sort of something maybe in-house, and then someone like at Braemar, where Phil noticed, you know, I was good at that stuff, and he was, oh yeah, you could do that yourself one day. If someone offered me to come along, or, you know, offer me a role, or said, oh yeah, I want you to sort of do it full time, then I'll probably do it. But I wouldn't openly start going out applying for roles within that sector, is what I'm trying to say. So yeah, could you think of something?
Yeah, I mean, it's something that probably Simon knows, and like something that I've dealt with this kind of role before. But I would like to be like a penetration tester. So you would bring someone into a company and say, see if you can hack into our network. And this is like, we'll Like you'll use your own laptop, and then you try to basically hack into our network, and then they'll then say, yeah, you're like I wasn't able to hack in, so your network is healthy. There's no issues there. Like there is like a slight little vulnerability here, or whatever the case is. Or they would go, yeah, your system is shit. This is what I was able to do. Like this time I did this, and then I then called up the IT service desk, and then I said that I was the CEO of the company, and you have to reset my password, and I then impersonated them, and then you were able to let me in. But like the intricateness and like the skill that they have to gain access to a network and do what they have to do and test that everything's okay is like a certain skill set, and it's like cool. It's almost something out of like a film, also, like a 1990s old school hacking film.
In other words, you want to be a hacker.
Ethical hacker.
Yeah, ethical hacker. That's what the roles have.
Yeah,
not a penetration tester. So yeah, something like that I'd love to do, but it's too much for lazy shit.
It's having the time to study for it and stuff, isn't it? In the evenings and around that, and at the minute you're a bit pushed against the wall.
I am, unfortunately. Yeah, a little bit too busy at the moment. Yeah.
Si, we've got 2 minutes. Go on.
I mean, that would be cool, ethical hacking, and it is obviously a sort of a tail off from me working in infosec and cybersecurity. Maybe like something like town planning or something, like planning how towns are put together and like certain improvements you can make in certain areas, whether that be a sort of local government initiatives, that sort of stuff, maybe. I did actually do a placement at TfL when I was at uni, and it was transport planning. So yeah, maybe not necessarily transport planning, but like something a bit more overall, so overarching in terms of like how a town's put together, that sort of thing.
But to be honest, you're one, like I said before, the sports scientist, sports psychologist, that technically is the very doable one. You know, obviously you have to go back into uni and stuff, but that's very much still possible for you to end up in. So you never know. You never know if you fancy
the town planning one, I guess technically with my degree, because I've got a degree in geography, would help. But again, it'd be networking and, you know, find opportunities, probably even unpaid work at some point. But yeah.
Okay, well, we'll leave it at that. Next week, I don't know. We'll see what we discuss. Possibly another sport-related one, maybe tennis. I know, Timothy, you're not into your tennis as much as me and Si, but I'm sure we'll sort it out. I'm sure we'll get something sorted.
Yeah, nice and cool. Cheers, guys. Thanks,
All
everyone.
right, let's have a good one. See you next week.
Awesome.
Cheers. Bye.